Welcome to the new and improved In the Hot Seat, where each week we take enterprise tech news and put it in the hot seat and determine what's hot and what's not. So what do you guys think is fun today? I think we could probably jump in to the story we were talking about Glean, who unveiled a autonomous enterprise agent built on enterprise context, which is their name for enterprise graph plus personal graph, agent development lifecycle framework, and Work AI Institute, after doubling their ARR, is 200 million in 9 months. And they talked about their library of actions is like 85 actions. Theoretically, their claim, which we have to look at, is the industry's first autonomous agent designed for the enterprise, reasoning and acting on their own, grounded in enterprise context. Now, I will say enterprise context, very important. I'm not sure about that first claim, but what do you guys think?
Well,
I love this topic. I love this. Like, I love the whole agentic SDLC, like, you know, definitely moving software development into the next phase of its life, right? I think I'm a little nervous about the whole completely agentic part, but I feel like the basis on a knowledge graph at least helps stabilize it a little bit.
Well, and you know, their background in enterprise search, I thought, played really well into this idea. Now, I haven't actually put this into use yet, so I'm not 100% sure. But the idea of an autonomous agent platform, build, govern, measure life cycle on enterprise context from a company that has already been doing enterprise search, it does sort of make sense.
And of course, I mean, you've already kind of alluded to the major questions, which are just how autonomous are they, and
how first
are these guys really the first ones to do this?
Yeah. Well, no, go ahead.
That's what I mean. In my teaser post, I said, we talked about this about a year ago when the team that I was on, about creating an agent version of an SDLC because we were going to need it. So I'm kind of surprised that it took this long.
Well, I mean, there are certainly, this is the part I think that is always kind of an issue, is that an autonomous agent is a thing that can be, but it's not a thing that is, right? In other words, you're making that determination in your own company, how autonomous. It has the capability, but do you have the governance in place to make sure that capability doesn't get out of hand and out of control?
Right.
And
Thomas, go ahead.
I mean, it's a while ago that I read an announcement that was as buzzword laden as this. So this is neither a first.
Well, they did hit all the right words. I mean,
no, there are too many words. So they probably should have come more with results, outcomes, benefits, which are all not there. So there's not even a word about whether there's somebody productive on that. Yeah. So which basically makes it a pipe dream. So I'm a bit less optimistic than Christy. So even the agent SDLC, that's there for a year. So they are not the first, not the only ones, not even the first. So
no. I mean, that's a Microsoft and Salesforce claim for over a year now, right?
Yeah. So the idea is good, but not shattering.
To what degree is this simply workforce automation with an LLM?
I don't think it's workforce. No. It feels more like execution automation.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, underneath this, I still think this is an interesting twist, and that's their experience already with enterprise search, knowledge retrieval, task execution. So they took their knowledge retrieval and add task execution. Context is extremely important. So that's the part that I wonder about. And don't get me wrong. I mean, if you use Agentforce, you have some context built in, and you do have an MCP server and ways to connect and, RAG built in and all those different kind of capabilities. But it is interesting because they do have some unique knowledge around knowledge retrieval.
And that's the part that they probably should have positioned a bit more, because everybody and their dog, as there was one of them barking in the background.
That was me.
Everybody does autonomous agents. Yeah, there's autonomous everything. So there's one company that says the autonomous enterprise. Yeah, don't want to mention them. Yeah, others are autonomous whatever else. Yeah, so this is.
That also goes to one of Pete's themes here, and that's the access to the right information. It may be the most important aspect of this, and that is that their search capability from to start with means adding this on is a much stronger business model than it would be for somebody who's not already doing the enterprise search.
Yeah.
Well, and I like the combination of that with the personal graph, right? The enterprise graph and the personal graph. What I couldn't figure out is whether or not that personal graph referred to agents. So maybe not necessarily personal.
The way I understood that was at least at the employee level, controllable to your own work context, right? So it's all the enterprise that you've made available, but also all of the knowledge content knowledge you've created that you allow to be in that system as well.
That makes sense.
They are jumping into a pond where there are already a bunch of very big predators.
Yeah.
So there's just named Microsoft and Google, just as two of them. Yeah.
Yep.
And so, I mean, with their technology, they have something credible, but on the other hand, they are doing something like Switzerland. Yeah. So they're becoming useful, they're becoming neutral, or they're staying neutral. They're not cheap, and they're constantly threatened by somebody bigger who's around. So
well, and I mean, if you're a CRM shop that already does business with Salesforce, why would you go somewhere else, right? I mean, Agentforce is built in. If you're a Microsoft shop, you already have access to Copilot, so would you? I mean, I think that's and honestly, Salesforce has a knowledge graph, right? Salesforce built in a graph database into it. Sorry, go ahead, Kirsten.
Yeah, at least
that's
they
okay.
know
I was just going to say
about CRM processes. Yeah.
Well, Pete, you're really quiet. What do you think?
I'm just trying to cut Chrissy off. Go ahead, Chrissy. Start to talk.
I'm afraid to start.
You get the joke now, I mean, Pete.
Go ahead, Pete. I give up.
Well, the thing I always circle back to is the sort of verification tax thing in the agentic world. So as something gets, more and more hops to it, the cost of, I mean, it's just impossible for me to verify manually some of the stuff that I do with just generative AI. It would just take longer than just doing it from scratch to begin with. And when you start to and that's just one thing, you start to put these things together and you've got a verification process that has to touch each one, and your chances of error go up. It's the stacking error kind of stuff. And so the thing that I'm kind of waiting to understand better is what did we really have to pay for this thing? And did we pick an application that was high enough value that regardless of how the math works out on the cost side, this was a no-brainer to go do, as opposed to, I mean, sometimes with new technologies, you're just looking for something it can do to prove it out in some sort of, risk-averse sandbox, so you don't screw anything up, and then you go on to something that's more valuable. I think AI is getting a lot of heat right now for not producing the return on investment, and I'm sure a lot of that has to do with this caution.
Yeah,
isn't the value of Glean actually that it can go across applications, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. It's great that Salesforce can do it within Salesforce and Microsoft can do it within Microsoft, but Glean can go across all of your applications that you have connected to it. So
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a huge value here that everybody here is missing.
Yeah, and it's talking about I mean, that's the layer, right? Think about the knowledge layer and the importance of it tied into
Right.
this versus the fact that I have, CRM based or I have Microsoft. But it doesn't mean those can't be extended. They can, but is it easier to take a platform that was already designed to cross your enterprise and pull that knowledge graph together? So that part, I think, that's interesting. Now, does it really solve a problem? I mean, what you said, that makes me really nervous, though, Pete. I would like to think that we could get to a point where companies go, "Hey, I have this problem. What'll solve it?" Versus, "Hey, I have this technology. What problem will it solve?"
A solution looking for a problem. Yeah.
Exactly.
Bitcoins.
A solution looking for a problem.
What's Michael? What's the difference between MCP and what it is you're talking about? Glean brings to the table with its graph.
MCP is specifically designed to connect in and out, right? So the model context protocol lets you connect outside. So like if I wanted to connect Agentforce to Glean, I'd use their MCP server, whether it's Salesforce's or theirs. It wouldn't really matter.
So it's just connectivity. It's no graph.
It's connectivity. And what we're saying is that because they had an enterprise search knowledge layer already, they already are connected out into all of your data sources, or at least all the ones that you enable. So that is, I mean, it is an advantage. Now, can you take Data Cloud from Salesforce and connect that? Sure. And in fact, you can federate the data from, several large data lake providers as well. So is it better? I don't know. Maybe if you're already a Glean shop, that it might actually be a real boost because you already had the context decided.
Well, I guess the question then becomes, is this more of a customer retention strategy or is it to get new customers?
Yes.
I think it's both. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's both.
Sure.
All right. Well, let's say it's probably time to take a vote here. So, and then we can jump into a next one. So what do you guys think?
I'm going to go thumbs up on this one.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah. I'm still I like the knowledge and the context piece, but I'm a little iffy on it too. So
yeah, I'm giving them a bit of a benefit of the doubt that they are delivering, because that's their weak spot right now. So it's all mouth. Till we see actual result, one can call it vaporware, but
and I mean, at least part of what they already had, right? We already know that was in play. They know that they do have the capability to consolidate that knowledge graph, right? So that I definitely think from a context perspective is extremely.
They just need to survive as Switzerland and not become the next Greenland that is threatened.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the next story then. It sounds like we say that one is at least lukewarm to hot.
Yeah.
Are we good?
Yeah.
All right.
That's at least a little better than lukewarm.
Oh, okay. See, I was downplaying a little, but
you were lukewarm.
I was a little lukewarm. Well, I mean, to be fair, context is really important.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's taking my role of last week.
Thomas and I agree to swap that once in a while, All right, well, let's move on to the next topic. So this one, we talked about ZoomInfo last week, but this I thought was a really interesting announcement, and it kind of ties in again to the same problem, right? So ZoomInfo is built a native connector between Copilot Studio and that GTM.AI, headless go-to-market context layer that we talked about a little bit in last week's show. Agent building Copilot Studio, Copilot and Dynamics 365, Copilot for Sales can be grounded in responses from ZoomInfo's verified data with no middleware layer. So this gives you that intent data as a context layer inside your go-to-market applications. So what do you guys think of that?
Well, doesn't Microsoft own LinkedIn?
Yes, they do.
Mm-hmm.
And what are they doing with LinkedIn?
Don't know.
It seems like that was just
it
seems like that's been sitting on the shelf over there. I could grab that and start to do what I'm doing with Zoom with the thing I already paid $26.7 billion for.
Yeah, well, I mean, they do have Sales Navigator from LinkedIn, and I'm sure that data connects So that's one more set. But ZoomInfo collects a lot of intent data from across the web that is actually really interesting.
And it's
So
not
it's intent.
like Microsoft does something with ZoomInfo. It's more the other way around. Because I mean, ZoomInfo has the challenge that they might become the plumbing underneath the user interface or whatever interface.
Yeah.
And plumbing easily becomes forgotten, or well, what's talked about and given away with something else. So there they need to be a bit careful. But in general, the idea again is the right one, because well, agents become part of the next user interface.
Oh,
One of the next user interfaces. So there's no point in selling yours.
It seems to me like this gets around a key point, and that's an SDR agent without with no GTM data is called a chatbot. But if it's attached to ZoomInfo, then it becomes a prospecting agent. It's a prospecting system.
And honestly, it's just a shift in the way you get to ZoomInfo's data. I mean, let's be honest. You can use it now because they have connectors to all the CRM systems with their intent data. So or all the major ones, I should say. So what we're talking about is it moves from a data source you got to integrate into a context layer that's already available to call from the catalog, which does in fact make them more visible and a decision versus an integration decision, which is harder and custom or semi custom.
Well, it seems like ZoomInfo is the one to do this in part because they're trying to offer intelligence, not just data, which is no, the intelligence obviously still depends.
Yeah,
like I said, trying. That's why I use the word.
Yeah, I mean it's data. Let's be clear. It's intent data. Yes, intent data is useful because it does provide directional guidance in a part of a go-to-market strategy in a system, but it's not more than that. The system still has to take you and help you do your go-to-market activity.
Mm-hmm.
But still, they're doing something right now that they could have done ages ago. Just being available, not by being synchronized into a system or well, on another tab, but by offering an online connectivity.
Yeah.
And
well, and being present in the catalog, that's actually the underlying piece of this that jumped out to me is that if it's a data source in a catalog you just click on to connect to, is that easier, and have you taken some friction out of that process?
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Now you may have put some more cost in the process. That's a different question, I guess.
Well,
that's always a trade-off.
That is probably the trade-off. Pete, Michael, what do you think?
I was going to ask you whether you see a potential explosion of context layers happening, and then what do we do?
You're going to have to come up with a context model agent manager, I guess, or something. I don't know. Yeah.
You're going to have some sort of layer that says, okay, for this particular thing you're trying to do, this is a better context data set than these other things, and use that, or use this and this other thing and pull those together. Just seems like we're starting down another path of.
Well, it seems like we need Glean and this, right? So you put those together.
Now you're onto something.
I know.
It's already there. So I mean, just check Perplexity, right? So the first thing they do is they check what's the best the matching tool.
And essentially, you've got an agent platform and then an agent data layer.
Well, yeah. I mean that is in fact the point of the context layer, and that's to be fair, that is an extremely critical piece that companies are struggling with right now, because guess what? You can't do any of this if the data is not there, and that's a huge problem, and that is the number one step to doing any of these AI projects. Is you got to have a data layer that you can get to, and you got to be able to provide that context, or you're not going to get any outcome that you wanted.
Does this actually make proprietary data more valuable than proprietary models?
That always was more valuable. Just that the model makers wanted to make us believe that it's not.
Yeah, no, and I said this in another show I did today, a AI news show. I was talking about this, and I think this is actually really important, that from a enterprise perspective, if you're thinking about the way you're going to build this system, you want to make it so that plug and play is the right way to do a lot of this, because I want to be able to use the best current model. And then when the government makes Anthropic turn that model off, I want to be able to shift to another model without having to rebuild my entire system. And that is absolutely important. And the same thing is true from a context point. I need a context layer to manage it, but I need connectors on every edge to be able to connect to all the different data sources that exist, whether it's outside the firewall or inside the firewall. All right. Well, so who should care and who should ignore this, right? Oh, hey, here we go. What do you think? Is it hype or is it not?
We got the cube. The cube.
We got the cube. Yeah, we got the cube. See, now I was going to go up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in between the two of you.
Wow, we're getting really nitpicky now.
We're going to call the clock positions of the.
Yeah, I just didn't find it that interesting, I guess. One way or the other.
So you're like that, yeah?
So you're with me. Admit it, Pete Smith. You agree with me.
Following Jody, yeah.
You see, he couldn't actually do that. He had to add some caveats.
They are doing the right thing, but they are at the risk of, as said, being hidden.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Hey, I don't know that we got to the fire.
Okay, the editor thinks that this wasn't that good.
No, I do still think it brings up the point, and some of this, look at the story and figure out what the actual implication is. The implication is companies really need to be thinking about what they're doing from a context layer and a data layer to be able to run any of these systems, whether you're trying to do finance or automate, sales development or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, let's see.
All right, let's move on to the third topic. We might actually get 3 topics in, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So we've talked about this a little bit before, but we kind of keep coming back to this idea, and I've heard, a lot more discussion around, does Agentic AI break the SaaS pricing model? And some of this, of course, is, it's a market debate. Certainly we've seen shock in the financial markets. Salesforce got crushed. Like I think they're at near 52-week low, even though Agentforce is growing, 200% year over year. So, if the employees do the work, then you're going to buy fewer seats. So AI growth cannibalizes per seat, and, vendors can add in some consumption-based pricing, and that ends up being not predictable from a finance perspective from the customer. And, so that's, we talked about this a little bit before, but now, you're starting to see, because a lot of these systems are in GA and Salesforce being one of them, that it's actually becoming a real conversation and a real problem.
It seems like there are a lot of companies experimenting with a variety of pricing strategies. And what happens if you go from a sales organization with 100 people and to a sales organization with 20 people supervising 500 agents each?
It depends on the model. It depends on the model. If I'm still trying to do a seat model and I claim those agents have seats, then I've got an interesting conversation to have with my customer. But then on the other hand, if I say it's outcome based, then I've got an interesting conversation to have with my CFO to figure out how I'm going to manage that. And with the vendor, or is it consumption based, so that I'm now taking those 1,000 agents and hoping they don't use more tokens than I budgeted for.
The interesting conversation with the CFO should happen when you are going consumption based, because that doesn't have any tie to value. If you're going outcome based, then
Right.
the math is easy.
Well, it's not so easy if you worry about how do you measure that, right? What is a resolved customer service call?
Didn't say the KPI is easy, but the math is easy.
Well, the math is easy if you have a way to measure it. That's all.
Yeah.
And many companies now get this. Oops, there he's gone. So
He went into the shadows.
Many companies are getting that, getting closer to that right now. So there are definitions whether they are smart or not so smart. And once you have negotiated that, which is always the necessary step and becomes more important again, the CFO has something very easy and simple to work against. And with whatever, sorry for my French bullshit that we had before in usage-based billing, that just favors doing stuff without any value. And that's no good point for the users nor for the CFO. It's good for the shareholders of the vendor.
It is, but I still come back to the same point when you talk about value-based. Is it it's so hard to get agreement on it and even have a way to measure it and make it so that both parties are going to agree to what that measure ended up, right?
It's almost like the shift in healthcare from Go ahead, Thomas. Don't let me interrupt you.
No,
go ahead, Chrissy.
It's almost like the shift in healthcare from fee-for-service to value-based care, right? Where you no longer have the number of encounters that you require and you're paid for each encounter, but it's based on how the patient fares at the end, right? It's almost the same thing, and we could probably take a page out of that book to make it effective.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, again, getting an agreement on the measure, the metric, and being able to measure that metric in a model that's agreed by both sides, that's still complicated.
It's the hard part, admittedly, and it, for the foreseeable future, will not work in many situations. So, I mean, the seat and the consumption pricing, they are the walking dead, basically.
And it depends. Yeah, it depends on the metric and the use case, right? The use case is going to drive what metric would be reasonable, but then can you even monitor it? Is there a way to get that? I mean, it is very complicated, and consumption from the vendor standpoint is really easy.
I love it.
Consumption from the user standpoint is easy from the use. It's just difficult from the what impact does that have on your budget question, right?
Right, and that's why vendors love it.
Well, I mean,
they can play Pontius Pilate and do this, wash their hands, and well, if you would have done the right thing, then you would have gotten the value. So what kind of argumentation is that?
Yeah, I mean, no, it is, and to be fair, I mean, we're talking about this a lot, and there are a lot of companies that are trying outcome-based pricing models, but I don't see yet, and haven't seen yet the real either buyer revolt or buyer acceptance, and that's going to be the real case. And this year, I think, is going to play out to answer that question.
It's the next attempt. I mean, Finn started it 24, Zendesk did their first in 24. HubSpot started last year. Zendesk did it refined this year. Others are starting that we are not allowed to talk about.
Yeah, well, there are a few of those. Yeah. Thanks, Thomas. I was just about to say something there that I would regret. Yes. So the question: heat or hype? What do you guys think?
I'm all in for outcome-based pricing.
I don't think it's possible.
I think the concept is great. I just have to see what it actually looks like.
It's not scalable. It's not a scalable business model.
You don't want to have outcome-based pricing because that diminishes your chances of tilting the playing game in your favor.
I would love to have 10% of the value I create as opposed to $50 a month. I would love that.
Please. Let's vote on Thomas's idea. Can we vote on that?
It's never going to happen.
Well,
I
I mean,
yeah,
if it did
obviously
happen,
these
though,
are the
you got to
talks.
admit, would be pretty attractive from your perspective.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is, in fact, all the time we have today. But thanks so much for joining, and thank all you for sharing your opinions, of which we all have lots. That's a good thing. And make sure you join us next week on Thursday so that you can hear us put some more of these topics in the hot seat.